Hello guys, welcome back. Video 18 of this advanced level framework development series. Prakash Narkad at this side. And here today I'm going to talk on very important topic, which is how can you create automatic defect in Jira by using Jira REST APIs. Okay, so till now what we spoke on is, if I go to my course content, so till now we created 17 videos on this advanced level framework series, and last video was we created a data driven test case which was completed basically, where we did access the data from Excel spreadsheet, added that in HashMap, and we were accessing that data from HashMap, and we did UI validation, DB validation, and yeah. Okay, now let's say if any of my test case is failing, and generally what we do is we do a quick check manually by running the test cases manually, or we may ask a manual QA guy to check it from their end if they have the same observation, and once we get the confirmation, we used to log the defect in Jira, or the manual QA guy, they can log the Jira or defect from RBR. Okay, but let's say I want to automate this complete process. Okay, I as soon as I observe the failures in test automation, let's say I want to automatically log the defect in Jira. Okay, so that is very much possible, and we can achieve that with the help of something called as Jira REST API. So the Jira, what we are using, they expose their APIs, and we can use those APIs from any technology. Okay, they have given Java specific APIs as well. We can go in that way as well, or the REST APIs is a bit easier as compared to their Java APIs. Okay, now let me go to my Jira. Okay, so this is my Jira, and in my Jira, if I go to issues, currently I don't have okay, so currently I have only one issues which I just created with the help of Postman. Okay, just to check if whatever payload I have created is working or not. Okay, so I'll take you through the payload first. So what I will do is I will take you through my request first. Okay, so now when we say I'm going to use API, so when we say API, in API I'm going to use a post request. Okay, and I'll give you all the details from where I got all these details. So when we say post request, I would be using some URI, which is my URL to REST API server, where my Jira is. That's my URI. Then along with this, I would be needing some payload, or I'll call it as a body or whatever payload. I'll be posting this payload with the help of post request on the given URI, and then I should receive some response. Okay, and from this response, I would be able to understand whether my issue is created or not. Okay, so this is a high level process. Okay, now if I go to let's say Jira. Okay, and this is the Jira documentation basically, and if I go to create issues, okay, so you can simply search for Jira REST APIs 3 issues or whatever, create issue or something. So here they are saying like, okay, we need to make a post call here, REST API 3 issues including your uh, address, okay, or IP, or whatever website address, or whatever your Jira address you have. Along with that, you need to add that. Okay, and here they have given the complete API basically. Okay, so if I copy this particular API, okay, so if you want to use it with the help of okay, before I go, let me go to this SQL, and here let me paste it, and here I'll explain you. Okay, so this is the REST endpoint. Okay, what they are saying is your domain name, then whatever I have shown you, right, REST API 3 issues. So this API version is version 3, okay, of REST API, and then you need to give this header as accept application slash JSON, content type as application slash JSON. So all these things we are going to pass from our Postman. Okay, and now my actual API start from here. Okay, my actual, not API, my actual payload starts from here. So from field, this is my actual payload. Okay, and here you see something called as summary, something called as key. So my key is nothing but my project name. Then you see, so there is something called as my issue type, what kind of issue it is, and you see some ID. Okay, and component, there is some ID. Then there are some custom fields. So this custom field is for date, this custom field is for what's this type. Okay, and then I have something called as project ID, some labels, and then I have what this is for. This is for description. Then I have reporter who has reported. So you can pass either by name, so you can specify the correct name, or you can get the ID. I'll tell you how we can get the IDs as well. So we have lot many things over here. They have given most of the things over here. So out of this, I don't want these many things, right? So whatever I wanted, I just extracted and I have added all of them into Postman. So I'll just take you through those things. Okay, so I'm just going to take you through all of them. So my project. Okay, so my project name is going to be QDPM. That's my if I go to my Jira, you see my Jira project name is QDPM. That's my key. Okay, then summary. What summary you want to add? So if I go to create, if I go to bug, what summary you want to add? Okay, so here you can put the summary. So that's what the summary is. And then description, what description you want to add? So after summary, you can put some description, right? So what description you want to add over here? So those description, that description we are going to pass from this particular place. Okay, next we have something called as issue type. Okay, and if you observed earlier payload what I pinged, so there it was ID. Now here I just tried with name, and I just tried giving name it as a bug, and it is working, right? So I can use either ID or name, but giving name I can easily understand, okay, this is for like what I'm doing out of this, right? So what kind of issue I'm going to create? It is my bug. Okay, then what component it is? Okay, so my component, if you go here you can see something called as component. So currently I have created one component called as test automation identified defects. Okay, so you should know how to create a components. You must be having all the components created. Okay, so currently I have taken this component, and I'll tell you how I got this ID as well. And there is something called as priority. Okay, so if I scroll down, I'll get to know what priority you want to put it in. So generally I do select the lowest priority, because I'm not sure whether this defect is a false alarm or it is a real defect. So generally I used to give it as a lowest priority, and then after uh, maybe my system analyst or manual give have a look and confirm, then we can change the priority accordingly. Then label, what label you want to add? So I just added a label called as bug fix and automation defect, any label whatever you want to add. What environment it is in? So it is in my UAT environment. Okay, so for few things you see it is straightforward, and for few things you see there are lot many things. So you need to have text type content and all those stuff. That's how they have created the API. We have nothing to do with that. We just need to follow how they have how they have exposed their API. And finally, I have taken something called as assignee, with whom to whom I want to assign that, and I got some assign ID. Okay, now how I got this assign ID, or how I got this component or priority? Okay, so to do that, where my Jira is hosted? My Jira is hosted here, automation talks dot atlassian dot net. So here my Jira is hosted. Okay, and now let's say I want to get all the metadata. Okay, or all the details related to my project. Okay, so here they have given you something where it is get create issues metadata. Let me open that. Give me a minute. Whether they have given me the address. Okay, so this is specific to issues. I don't know. Give me a minute. If I go to dashboard, and Okay, or let it be. Whatever I have, I'll just show you. Uh, where I have that, yeah. So in order to get the component, okay, or first just to get the list of users, okay. So what I'll be using is, I'll just show you here. Out of that, the initial one is my domain at automationtalks.atlassian.net, and then it is going to be rest slash API slash API version slash users, and this will give me my actual users. So currently I have two users, okay. So if I just scroll down, you see my user number here. My user is Prakash at the rate here, automationtalks.com. And just give me a minute. So this is my user, and this particular user is having this particular ID. Okay, so I just use this particular ID because I want to assign it to this particular user. Okay, you can format it, you can format this particular JSON response in better way. If you have any plugin installed, any Chrome extension installed, you can see this in a better way. Okay, I don't have currently, so that should be fine. I just looked for where is my ID and what's the account ID for that, and that should be something I am using into my uh, payload. If I go to my payload, that's something what I am using. Okay, next. What next? I want to look for priorities. What priorities I have configured for my Jira project. Okay, so that's the reason. So all these things depends on project to project. That's the reason we used to give the project domain name. Okay, now to get the priorities, you see these many priorities are configured in my project. If it is the highest priority, ID is going to be 1. If it's high priority, ID is 2. Likewise, if it is the lowest priority, ID is going to be 5. So in my payload, you see priority ID as 5. Okay, likewise, last thing what I wanted to show you is components. So most of the things components are necessary, based on which we categorize, or we would be able to filter out how, like, in which area the defect was. And in my case, I did created only one component. As I told you, test automation identified defect and its ID is 10,000. Okay, so you can either use name or you can use ID. I just give try one by this way and one by that way. So here I did use ID. You can use name as well. Okay, so yeah, so now this is how I got my payload. Okay, and how from where I got, I have already shown you from this particular place. Create Jira, and sorry, create issues on Jira documentation, Jira API documentation, create issue, and under this CURL, I have just taken this complete request, and out of this, I have just identified whatever I wanted, and this is what I wanted. Okay, so if you go to Java over here, they have given some POJOs and all, but I don't want to go into this much complexity. That's the very lengthy thing, but that should be the ideal way if you are using. Or if you have done API test automation using Rest Assured or something, then you must have done POJOs and all, and done and created your payload builder and all, right? So this is that way basically, but I feel that as a bit lengthy into this particular thing. And here my aim is not to write this in pretty better way, but my aim is to create automatic bug in Jira. Okay, so I'll be following my simplest way, whatever I feel. Okay, so this is my request payload, and it is ready, and the same is added into my postman. Okay, so this is my postman basically. Okay, and along with this, my this and this is my endpoint basically, where I'm hitting it. You see my domain basically, automationtalks.atlassian.com, followed by REST API 3 version 3 and issues. Okay, this should be my post request. Here I'm hitting my post request. Now main point about authorization. Okay, so here in authorization, you see my username is whatever user I logged in, and password. Okay, before that you see type as basic authentication. Okay, and here in password, it is not a direct login password. This password is going to be your secret key. Okay, remember, username is your login username, whereas password is not your direct password, but that is something your uh, secret key. How you can get that? You can go to your account setting. In case you don't have access, you need to request the same to your admin. Okay, if you go to security, and you will find something called as API token, go to create and manage API token, and here just create API token, whatever. Okay, so let's say I'm just creating it as a demo token, and I'm just going to create it, and it has given me some token. Okay, so I have copied and I'm going to use this particular token, let's say. Okay, and okay, great. Now I got all the details. Basically I got my post request, I got my authorization, I got the body. Okay, and now as soon as I hit, let's say, let me make it as summary 1 just to make it difference. And now if I click on send, this is going to create, and you see status as 201. That means Jira creation is successful. And you see ID as something, and the key, basically the defect ID is 16. Okay, if I go to my Jira, let me go to my Jira now. Okay, here I am. Let me go to my open issues. Let me refresh it again. Okay, this time you see this is the 116th one, REST API defect summary, and I'm able to create Jira out of this. Okay, and you see some summary description, environment. So I just selected environment as UAT. Assignee, you see this is assigned to someone, and who is reporter? I'm the reporter. What are the labels? What is the component? What's the priority? So whatever field I wanted for my project, I have just added those fields. Okay, so in my next video I'm going to show you how we can uh, add the attachments as well, but for now this is something which we are going to implement from our Java code. Okay, now when I say Java code, that is going to be HTTP client. I'm going to use HTTP client. You can use the same thing how you use it in the rest assured, that should be perfectly fine, but the simplest way I'm using HTTP client, because I don't want to get all those APIs and do the things. Anyway, this HTTP client APIs I already have in my along with my JDK. Okay, so now, okay, and I already have written code for this. If I go to reusable component Jira operations, I already have created this. Okay, so what and all things I should know. The very first thing is Jira URL. Okay, the URL what I have told you, this particular URL. Okay, so not that actual URL, but this URL, basically automationtalks.atlassian.com. The other things are variable. Okay, so I'm trying to get those things from my properties. If I go to my properties file, you see, do I have? Yeah, I do have it. I don't know why I left this much space. Okay, I have it. Okay, so you see my Jira URL is this one. Okay, and post that, what else I need? I have Jira username and I have secret key. Don't try to use this particular secret key on this domain. You won't be able to access it. This is already deleted by the time you see this particular video. Okay, you need to get your own token key on your own server. Okay, so all these things are accessed from properties file. You see all these three things are accessed from properties file, and I did created one method called as create Jira issues. And what and all things I need to create a Jira issues? I need a project name, I need a summary issue, a summary of that particular issue, I need the issue description, I need to know the component, what and all I have, I need to know the priority, I need to know the label, environment, assignee, basically to whom I want to assign it. So all these things I should know. So I'm just asking all of them as a parameters, and as a part of this particular create Jira issue method, I am going to return something, and that something is nothing but my Jira ID. So after defect creation or bug creation, it is going to return me some ID, right? So this is the key. It is going to return me this particular key. Okay, every time it will be different, but yeah, that is something will get returned, which I'm going to use for my attach adding the attachment. Basically I cannot add attachment directly from this API what I have shown you. That is not something implemented in the same API yet. They have the different API basically. Okay, now as I said, I'm going to use HTTP client. So now in HTTP client there are three things basically. The first thing is HTTP client. Okay, and second thing is HTTP request, and the third thing is HTTP response. Okay, so request response we can understand. Okay, request what content I am going to send, response what I am going to receive, and HTTP client is the base on which we are going to do both the things, request and response. Okay, so first HTTP client. Okay, HTTP client is an interface. Basically, you can see, you can read the description basically over here. That's fine. So I'm just using HTTP client builder class just to give me the platform where I'm going to post my request, and I'm going to store it as an object of HTTP client. Now, what is my URL? As I said, Jira URL is simply my automationtalks.atlassian.com. Followed by that, I should have something called as REST API version 3 and issues. Okay, so that is my complete URL, and that URL I'm going to pass to my HTTP post. Now this HTTP post is something which will help me to post the request. You see, post method, whatever, you can read the description, but this is used to post the request. Okay, so I'm just trying to send some request to my server, where, to this particular URL. What request I'm going to send, that is something I need to define yet, right? What is my request? My request is going to be this complete JSON. Okay, let's see how we can do that. But now, as of now, I just created a blank object of post request along with the URL. Now, to this particular post request, I need to add a couple of things. If you go to authorization, sorry, username and password is the first thing that we have added, and second thing, we need to set what kind of where I can get that. Give me a minute. Okay, what kind of content it is? So you see the content type, we are going to set it as application slash JSON. So that is something like what kind of content I'm going to pass out of this particular request. That is something I need to tell. So you see, to this post request object or HTTP post object, I'm just adding the header as content type. Pass the content type as application slash JSON. That is, I'm going to pass you the JSON, and along with that I need to pass something called as authorization. I should tell them that okay, basic authorization I'm going to try, and these are my username and password. So here you see, I'm not going to pass it directly. Okay, why? Because what I'm doing, I'm going to send it over HTTP, right? And in my username or in my password, I might have some special character which uh, so the transportation of those special character might fail over HTTP. Okay, so in order to convert those special character, in fact not those special character but everything into binary format, we are going to use this something called as base64 encoder. This is not something encryption. Okay, if we do encryption, we need to have a key for decryption, right? So this is not encryption, this is encoding, just to have a proper transportation of my username and password over HTTP, so that there is no loss of any data. Okay, that's what I'm doing. So this is my Jira username. So I have just created base encoder object. Okay, and one more thing. So for using all the stuff what I talked till now, I don't need any external API. All these things come from Java. But in order to use this base encoder, I need to use a separate API. So we have multiple ways basically to encode, but what I used is base64 encoder. And if you go to lib, you should see sun.miss.base64 decoder jar. Okay, if I encode, I should have decoder. Okay, so this particular API have both the things, encoding and decoding. Okay, and but the point is, I don't have this available on my Maven repository, so I need to download it and then put it into libs and then use it. You can find the alternative way to encode and decode if you don't want to use encoding. If you have your username and password very simple without any special characters, you can give a try without encoding and decoding as well. But this is something what I have used. Okay, so this base64 decoder jar, you should be able to get it from java2es.com. Just go there and look for it, you should be able to get it. Okay, so I have added it into libs, and after putting it into libs, what I did is I just went to build path and added the external jar. You should be able to do with that. Okay, I don't want to go in those details. Okay, so this is something I'm done with my authorization and content type. Great. Now main point. So this is done. Headers is done. Now main point is my body. How I'm going to pass this much body. Okay, now from this particular body, the very standard way to handle these particular JSON is something called as we can use POJOs. Okay, so what is this POJOs and all? I'm not going to explain now. This is something I'm going to explain is in my next framework when I'm going to create a framework for rest assured. Okay, but Pojo is something we are not going to implement over here. Here I'm just going to find out what and all fields which are variable. I'm just going to parameterize those fields and I'm going to put the complete JSON as an object and then going to pass the variable field. For example, a project name QDPM can be variable, summary can be variable, then this description can be variable, right? And this priority can be variable, components can be variable, labels can be variable, uh, environment can be variable, and assignee can be variable. So all those things, all these 6 things, I'm going to make it as a variable, right? So what I did is I did created one private method called as create payload for create Jira issue, added all those 5 6 different parameters, and you see I'm just passing project name, issue summary, issue description, component ID, priority, whatever variable things I told you, right? So all those things I have added over here and pasted my payload as it is. Okay, so it looks very weird. Okay, but you need not to worry about that how it gets created. So I'll quickly show you how it gets created. For example, if I create one string, let's say string str is equal to, let's say I want to pass this complete object in a string. So I'll just do copy and paste, and you see everything got pasted correctly. Okay, I didn't do anything. Now whatever variable things, let's say this QDPM I want to let's say this assignee ID I want to replace into my request. This is my assignee ID. I'll just put double quote over here. Okay, so this got triple quote, find double quote. In between that I'll have plus plus concatenation and my assignee ID, and this should work for me. Okay, so this is pretty simple. So by look it looks very weird, but that's the simplest way what we have till now. Okay, and yeah, so by calling this particular private method, I'll be getting my exact payload. Okay, where all these fields will be taken care, incorporated. Fine. Now there is a class called as string entity into my HTTP client. Okay, which is simply kind of string which gets the content into a string like format where I can pass my JSON. So by using this create payload for create Jira issue, I get some JSON payload. Okay, and that JSON payload I am going to pass to the string entity where I am going to post that particular string entity using this post request, right? So this post request is the object of HTTP post. Okay, and then you see HTTP client. As I said, HTTP client is the base basically on which I'm going to send this post request. So on HTTP client there is a method called as execute where I'm going to post request, and that will give me the response. Now from this response I'm going to extract the data what I want. What it returns me, it returns me ID, key, and self, right? I want to extract that. At least I just want to extract the key because I want to use it for my further purpose, right? So how can I do that? So HTTP response. I don't understand how to read HTTP response. First, I should convert this HTTP response into string. So for converting HTTP response into string, there is a class called as entity utils, static helper basically, which is used to convert it into a string. So you see under entity utils, I have a method called as toString where I can pass from the response. I'm just trying to get the entity, that is get my response. Okay, and I'm passing it to toString method so that it will get converted into a string format. Now if you print this JSON string, you will have the JSON response into a string format. But again, I cannot extract the data from string format by using key values, right? Because let's say if I want this QDPM 16, then I'm going to pass key as key. If I want to extract this 11015, then I'm going to pass key as ID, right? So based on key, I want to extract some data, right? So for that, I don't want that in a string format, but I want that in a JSON object format. So in order to convert your string into JSON object format, we are going to use something called a JSON parser. Okay, so the JSON parser is coming from JSON simple. Okay, so in order to use the JSON parser, make sure that in your pom.xml you have added one more dependency called as this one, Google code JSON simple. If you simply do JSON simple search in Maven repository, you will be able to manage this particular dependency. Okay, so this particular method JSON parser comes out of that. Okay, now this on this parser we have a method called as parse, where we are going to pass the JSON string. In that string we already have a JSON, but Java doesn't understand that as a JSON. Java understand that as a string only. So explicitly I'm telling Java that okay, parse it as a JSON by using JSON parser. And then I'm just trying to cast it with JSON object. Okay, so JSON object is again coming from the same API. Now from this JSON, on this JSON object, I can use get method where I can pass the key in the sense what I want. Okay, so I want key, that means it is going to give me this particular ID, and that is what I want, issue ID. Okay, so this is the complete description for this particular code which I am going to use for creating Jira issue. Okay, so till now I have created a method for this. Okay, okay, now what I'll do is I will stop this video over here. In next, so till now we haven't added the attachment. Okay, so I'm not going to execute this now, but I'll create one more method for adding the attachment, and then we'll execute both the things together. Because if I create Jira, if I create bug, that should have some attachment, right? In maximum of the cases. So I'll create one more method for that, and then we will execute both of them together. Okay, so yeah, stay tuned. Thank you.